Hi, it's Kevin May, the Editor-in-Chief of PhocusWire. I'm joined here by Peter Syme, the founder of 1,000 Mile Journeys. You're one of the suppliers here at the Arival 2018 event. Welcome to our studio and welcome to Vegas.
Good to meet you, Kevin.
Thank you. Right, so your appearance here earlier on stage as part of a panel was fairly unusual, by which I mean it's fairly unusual for someone to make a comment on stage and get applauded once, but you made two comments and got a second round of applause. So what I'd like us to do, given that clearly they were comments that resonated with people in the audience, I think we would dive into those a little bit. The first one was when you were talking about reservation systems needing to remain independent in your view. The context being there's been two fairly sizable acquisitions earlier this year of Boken and for Fair Harbour. Why do you think that reservation systems should remain independent?
The reservation systems have been about more or less longer than the OTAs in some cases, working with the supplier base across the world. If the trend goes that we think it's going to go, by the OTAs getting better and better at their job, and the distribution shifting from direct at the moment to OTAs, they gain more and more control over the industry. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, depending on what the split is. But it does present the supplier with multiple challenges. If they also own the technology that runs your business, you've not just given your distribution to an OTA that can make your business or break your business in the switch of an algorithm, you've given the technology that is running your business to a company that is global, that is huge, that is massive, and on the whole, we are tiny little suppliers with no negotiating power with that. From a business perspective, that's about the stupidest, highest risk strategy that a business could take.
Right, but I mean, people would say they use the term frenemies, or keep your friends close, but keep your enemies even closer. With that context, maybe these large OTAs, even if you're using their reservation system, they do have the potential to give you bookings that perhaps you didn't have the opportunity to reach before. They certainly do, and please don't get me wrong here, I am not anti-OTAs, no matter. You said earlier you get a small percentage.
I manage what we get. I would get more if I opened up the pipes, so I control the pipes into the OTAs and give them what I want to give them. I don't accept the demand that I have to give them all my product. I don't accept the demand that I have to give it all live. I do a lot of product live, and I do other product that's not live. So at the moment, the supplier base, we can collectively tell the OTAs what we can do and what they can't do at the moment. Again, going forward, that may not always be the case. But
when they're squeezing your hand because they're your tech supplier. When they're squeezing your hand,
and they're your tech supplier, and they're running your distribution, and it's very easy for a small supplier, and particularly a start-up small supplier, and suddenly he opens and he gets all these bookings coming from an OTA. He's happy as Larry. He's getting some cash flow coming into the business. Great. He's got some business. He's got some customers. Of course he's going to be happy. But most people in this industry do it for a passion for the service and the product they're doing. They don't really, they haven't been to business school. They're not businessmen.
You're very different from hotel owners, is what you're saying.
And they don't understand the risk scenario they're taking on. And we've had examples of, I'll go to it, a technology tweak can lose, if somebody's in 45, 55, 60% of the business with a OTA, and a slight tweak makes that business disappears, they haven't got the cash flow to keep paying the staff. And that is a serious strategic risk for a small business.
So remind us, what was the percentage that you said you currently get through OTAs?
I'm 17% trade, 83% direct, and of that 17%, about 3% is OTA and growing.
Okay, so what criteria do you go through? You said you can switch it on and switch it off. What kind of steps do you go through to decide when to kind of dial it up a bit or dial it down?
I look at my product mix for that year, what I want to. And OTAs have good potential for suppliers to do some things that maybe the OTAs won't want me to say, but you can test product with the OTAs. And you could spend your own marketing money testing a lot of product, or put some product on the OTAs and see if it sells. Because they're going to pay for the PPC and market it, and if it sells, leave them with the product. If it doesn't sell, well, as a supplier, you've saved yourself some money. Personally, I'm on a yield management business for my day activities, it's yield management, so I'm looking from the relationship with an OTA. If I've sold 8 seats in a raft and I want to fill that 2 seats and it comes from an OTA, that's great management, and I'm happy with the OTA, especially if it's 2 clients who have come from Germany or Holland, not 2 clients that's come from my local city, which they've marketed onto that. I'm slightly less happy if they start sending me whole bookings of groups of 10 and 20, because that's taking out my whole resources to work for the OTA, and that's taking out over half my profit.
Yeah.
And I can't run the business at half my profit.
And this was the point where you also got another round of applause, which was when you were talking about half the profit and the context around commission. So just talk us through that little bit and why you think that resonated again with so many people.
Yeah, there's a language, isn't there? We're in travel, we're in tours and activities, and there's a language that develops over many, many years in travel, and everybody in here understands the language. And we get used to doing it because we're humans and it's habit. So we've got used to talking about commission as a percentage of revenue. Yeah. And I remember, because I'm old and grey, that it was always in that 10% range for years and years and years. Whoever your partners were, it was in that 10% range. Yep. Then it maybe have crept up to 12.5, maybe touch 15. Since the OTAs come on, they've changed the language of commission to this 20 to 30%, and the industry as a whole has copied the language of 20 to 30%. And that trains a human brain to think of it, it's a fifth to a third of my business, but they're not really thinking it through. It's half your profit. Yeah. For most day operators, if they're selling at that $40 to $100 sale point, it is half their profit. Yeah. Now, if we started talking about, are you willing to give you half your profit to get this distribution, it would be a very different conversation with the OTAs in the industry. A very different conversation. But that, in reality, is what they're asking for, half your profit.
Which presumably is not something that you would... Can you afford to do that?
You can't afford to do it as a supplier on a yield management model where you're filling your last seats. Right. So last availability. You cannot afford to do it if it became your business. So we get back to the discussion at the moment where the suppliers own 90% and the OTAs only 10%, but the fastest growing in the sector. If the crossover, every single supplier will have a crossover in the business where if they have too much product with the OTA, their business will not be profitable. Yeah. I mean, that's just business 101. Yeah. And there's another thing that's not talked about here. What does a supplier then do to take care of that lost profit? Okay. We put the prices up. So who's getting shafted?
The end user.
The customer.
Yeah.
So we're bringing in all this great technology, and it's fantastic, at multiple layers to make the customer's journey easier, but the end result is the customer's having to pay. Yeah. Because at certain stages now, there is 4 levels of technology between the customer and turning up at the supplier. We have MetaServe sitting on the top of the...
let's not forget.
So to me, that's... And I understand it on an asset-based business where you've got rooms or you've got ferries to fill, but in a moving part tour business, that business model doesn't compute in my brain.
Right, so one of the other things that came up in that panel discussion was the idea of personalisation, and you seem to think that they wouldn't be good at that because they wouldn't be able to, OTAs, and because they wouldn't know the customer and they wouldn't be able to really kind of tweak the itinerary on a tour and things like that. But I'm just being devil's advocate here. So, with the technology they're developing and the more data that they get from the customers,
they have the data
over time.
They have the data.
As long as the supplier is willing to give, kind of unbundle things, which is a phrase that gets used, they could do that.
They should, and I would expect them, due to the size and the investment, to have some of the best AI and machine learning engineers going. So theoretically, if I'm looking forward 3 to 5 years, what do I see Booking.com TripAdvisor doing? I see them selling a hotel room in a city, and the minute that hotel room is booked, underneath it is 3 tours that totally match the location, but should totally match the person who's booking the hotel room's preferences. Because they've got data previously that says that person's really interested in history, so we want to stick some museum tours right under it. I know they will get there at some point.
So what does that mean for you then?
I don't necessarily think, again, is that good for the supplier, because we have to see that at scale and how it works, because it may work very, very well for some suppliers.
Right.
But it may work very negatively for a whole host of suppliers. We just don't know because that's not been done at scale.
Yeah.
So it's a bit suck it and see environment. These guys have got to get to a more personalised state because at the moment they're just Amazon retailers again selling flat product. And the trend is, we speak to customers every day, people like personalisation. They like to feel special. And if they and it's in our interest to have that, we don't want them just being a commodity, the tours and activities. If they become a commodity, we're as well packing up and going home.
Right. As has happened in the air sector and those particular types of industry have become very commoditized.
Yep.
Whereas it's very difficult where it's, you've got hundreds of suppliers here and everyone's got a very unique different type of product rather than they're all just hotels or something like that. So where do you see, you said some of these things might happen in a couple of years. Imagine we were sat here in a couple of years having that conversation. Do you think you would be happier with the way things have shaken out, or do you think you would be more frustrated?
I have a feeling, and this is a gut feeling, this isn't based on data or evidence.
Or AI.
Or AI, although I do play with AI a lot. I think one of the major OTAs will back out the market.
Okay. Why? Because it's too hard, or
because the amount of investment that they've had to put in, and we've heard the numbers, but we haven't heard the real numbers because the amount they're spending on the back of it is huge. And this is big money we're talking about, with demands from shareholders and stock markets and all the rest. I don't think they're going to crack the puzzle as quick as the money demands.
Okay.
And CEOs live a short life in listed companies, and I think one of them, and don't ask me which one because I don't know.
Well, it would be remiss of me not to say.
I don't know, but I think one of them will take a strategic decision to back out of them, maybe not completely out, but I don't think it's going to deliver as big as what they think it is going to do. Okay. And therefore they'll have to readjust their investment into the sector, and obviously that will have a kick on to everyone else in the sector. So that's a prediction. Whether it will happen or not, I don't know.
It's a fascinating food for thought. I've not heard somebody say that yet. So congratulations, you're the first. Thank you very much, Peter, for talking to us.
Thanks very much. Thank you.